Today we're going to talk about how to print with woodblock and letterpress. I first got interested in DIY printing in the days of punk because it was all about make your own clothes, make your own music, and associated with that was some kind of press, which largely was in the form of fanzines. And to make fanzines in those days you used things like letterpress, and you drew your own pictures, and then you had typewriters, and that was about it. But and then along came this setup, which is an Adana letterpress printing machine. And to print words and pictures with this, you essentially physically clamp letters together. You put them into here, you put rollers on there, you put ink on, and then bingo, you've got yourself a picture. And back in the day, Spider, who was a big part of the local punk scene, he had one of these setups, and he printed all the tickets for the Not Sensibles gigs, little flyers and things. And then at the same time, people were getting into art. A lot of punky people were going to art school. And in Burnley, where we live, we were quite cynical of this. You know, we were, oh, punk rock, everything else is shit. And what we never realised was that what we were doing was art, you know, but we would never ever have thought of it, you know, playing music, writing songs. So part and parcel was this method of printing. And then people were getting into art, and I was introduced to the Impressionists by people like Boff and Inga. And as part of that, the Impressionists discovered that artifacts coming from Japan were wrapped in these sort of newspapers like posters, and when they looked at them, they were images which were essentially woodblock prints. And the way they made the images was they got a piece of wood and physically cut the picture, the outline and picture and shadows into different blocks, and then made fairly detailed, exquisite pictures with wood blocks. So I got into this style of simple printmaking and artwork, and then when Chumbawamba were getting rid of their letterpress setup, which I think is the same one that Spider had, I got it, and I've been using it ever since. So you realise that it is so versatile. So for example, for a record label, you can print the track listing, you can cut a picture out of wood, and it is so versatile. So ever since those days, I've sort of incorporated it, and it's such a wonderful art form. It's versatile, and you can print, you know, about that fast when you're good at it. And I've even made a block for the record label, sort of borrowed from some other classics. So that's it. We're going to actually show how to print with woodblock and letterpress. So when I decided to write the book and illustrate it myself, it was quite obvious that I would use woodblock prints. So every chapter has a woodblock print image, which took me ages. There's like 20. So that's the original woodblock, and that's the image. And woodblocks have been used in book illustration for ages. So it was just perfect. That's a Gretsch guitar. And every chapter has one of these. That's the nipping press. And the nipping press is such a huge part of making your own record sleeves. So that's quite important. And there's all sorts. There's a Morris Minor. That is a moth. I've forgotten the name of the moth. It's a type of moth that adapts to its background and changes colour. The tractor, an owl, Morris Minor, a rat and its tail is on the next page. Alarm clock. And then that is the actual what we've ended up using as the logo. And when I ended up doing an international edition, that is the cover of the international edition. So what a wonderful art form, woodblocks. And I actually cut them copying the Japanese method, but instead of the Japanese knife I use a scalpel on the back of old woodblocks. These are all old numbers and things like that. Bingo. So this is a guillotine, and it is very important in being able to do things like make record sleeves. You can buy paper in A2 and then cut it. And this is some old note paper that I no longer use. So I'm just going to cut it down and then I can reuse it. And then we'll go upstairs and we'll print onto it. So the first thing we do is clamp the block into this frame. I think it's called a chase, but all these things in printing have names. And then you pack things out with bits of wood, like that. And again, it has a name in printing, and it's called furniture. And obviously we're just doing one block today, but the same applies when you so it's roughly in the centre, doesn't matter. So that is now nice and tight and ready to print. So these are the rollers that take the ink, and these are runners. And then we'll go and put them in the machine. So this is the moment of truth where we put the rollers on and we ink up the press. And what you can never capture on film is the smell of letterpress ink, which is probably the smell of linseed oil. So you put it onto the plate, and then you have to spread it evenly. And don't start rolling yet, you slide it across like that, holding the roller, spread it, and then that sound is unique to printing. And just that smell of the ink. Now the next thing we've got to do is we put the chase in with the block, like that. And then using these stops here, we position it. And I'm just centralising it roughly to the block, put it there, and then I mark it with a pencil, like that. If you're doing something accurate, you can get little side stops. So the first pass, the roller goes over the ink, it inks the block, and then this is the moment of truth. Are you ready? Da-da. Now that's the first print, and it's not deep enough. It's not deep enough. So using these 4 screws here, I bring it forward and then we go again. That's probably a bit too much, but there we are, look. Beautiful. So we've adjusted it again. And that's looking more or less okay. It just wants to go that way, tiny smidge. And this is the logo, the block that we've ended up using for the logo. So this is going to be a little bookmark and a little flyer and leaflet as well. Now, if you are printing something like a 7-inch single and you've got 500 copies, and each sleeve might go through the press 5 or 6 times, it's a lot of labour. But with 2 people, you can actually get pretty damn quick. Somebody hands you the paper and takes it off and stacks it, and you can get up a reasonable speed. Now I'm just going up to a pencil mark because this doesn't matter, but it's very easy just to put a little clip in there as a side stop. And quite a few times I've been asked about doing some prints of the blocks, and it's about a year ago I bought some nice paper, but I haven't got around to it yet. So that's the sort of glamorous side over with, and then you just carry on and on. And I don't know how many's in this pile, I would guess about a couple of 100. But it's false economy not to just print the lot whilst you've got the press inked up. And because I'm doing a pile, I'm going to actually make a little side stop. So that there is just a piece of folded tape, and it acts as a side stop. You slide your paper up to it, and then you know that it's in exactly the same position every time you print.